Desperate to save their kingdom from collapse, the trolls of Gundrak have turned on their ancient gods. The wild deities, also known as the Loa, are now considered a source of untapped power, their potent blood providing the means to repel the Lich King's minions, who have overtaken parts of the troll nation. Heroes have recently journeyed to the beleaguered region to strike at the savage Drakari and their maddened prophets. So yeah, trolls doing what trolls do. Doing troll things, basically. This is not the first nor the last time we will hear of trolls going, hey, you know what? Maybe we should go ahead and sacrifice our Loa to take their power. You know? There's a collie. After all, we saw this in Zulaman. That's what that guy was like told Zul'jin to do. It's like, hey, we'll kill the Loa and take their power. So then we also see the Drakari doing that here. We will see this happen with the Zandalari and BFA. It seems to be it's a recurring thing with the trolls, and it's just kind of like, huh, you know. Speaking of the Zandalari, this is Tolmar. So he's actually a Zandalari. Keep in mind that the Zandalari are kind of preparing for something later on. Just saying.
Later. See ya later. Be seeing.
It must have been the most awful thing I ever seen. The great Akali slain right before my eyes. Horrible. My job be to observe only, but this cannot stand. Galdara and his followers must pay. Avenge Akali's death, mon. It be the right thing to do. I know you just saw Akali outside, but keep in mind he's referring to part of the story that happens in the zone. Again, this is one of those like where you go through the zone and do the story of the zone, which leads into Gundrak, which effectively ends up being the finale of the zone, where this is going to basically mark the end of the Drakari as an empire and as a force. Like, basically after this, when we take out their forces, even though we'll actually see some more of their forces in Pandaria, this basically will mark the end of their empire that they are trying to resurrect.
Later.
This whole mess could have been avoided if the Drakari had worshipped the gods instead of destroying them. I heard that they have a special golem, one imbued with forbidden power. Bring me back a piece of that golem so we can learn from our brothers and sisters.
See ya later. Okie dokie.
The land of the ice trolls is a shadow of its former glory. If you be having the courage, search for history tablets to see how it brought the Drakari Empire to such an end. Perhaps one day we be given this land back to a new line of frost trolls. Like I said, this guy's actually part of the Zandalari, so he's like, maybe when we take this place for ourselves, we could, I don't know, give it back to them afterwards. If they be reunited and working with us, of course. I've done this dungeon plenty of times because it's part of the time walking rotation in Wrath. So let's just say I've often done the drop here, where it's like, oh, we land right here and snakes. Why did it have to be snakes? Yeah. Pretty much. I love coming in here as a warlock because then, like I said, you do this. It's like, okay, see the corruption there, see the corruption there, see the corruption there. And then you just wait for the fireworks. So the first boss is Sladrin. Sladrin took no pleasure in sacrificing the Loa that he had served all his life. As the powers of his god surged into him, the High Prophet swore that the Scourge would suffer for the atrocities of the Drakari trolls, that the Drakari trolls were forced to commit. So yeah, he's a snake boss. He's got, he summons more snakes. He has Poison Nova, Powerful Bite, and Venom Bolt. And of course, we have a bunch of other snakes just right here. And you can even see he's basically, doing one of those things. It's kind of like what we saw in Zulaman. where when they absorbed the power of the Loa, they kind of took a embodiment of what that Loa represented. So in his case, a Loa of snakes.
Drakari gonna kill anybody who trespass on these lands.
He's hissing. Get it? Because he's a snake. A segment of the history of the Drakari Empire. And no, you cannot read it. I think he summons more snakes in a bit, but...
Scourge was not our greatest enemy.
Nope. The Altar of Sladrin. The High Prophet of Cesterus. So we were doing this basically to open up that bridge in order to reach the final boss when we get there, of course. Now, I know this may not look as big or as impressive, but I want you to keep in mind a couple things. One, this place is supposed to be a lot bigger in lore because it's supposed to be a troll city. Which, then you look at all the bones that are around this place. The other thing is that this also is another representation of the amount of cut content that Wrath had. Was supposed to have a lot more content than it actually had, but a lot of it had to be cut for one various reason or another. And you can see tablets throughout the entire place. I don't know why it's having this issue where it won't show me the quests here on the side. That's strange. Don't really know why it's doing that. By the way, these are not like just the bones of their enemies. Just gotta keep that in mind. Now, coming up is an area that's actually rather infamous. And it's another example of what I'm talking about when it comes to cut content. And this was infamously brought up at one point. You've probably heard about this from a certain someone at BlizzCon. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the infamous Snake Tail. The very Snake Tail that Jesse Cox himself asked about at BlizzCon and brought a screenshot to show Chris Metzen and asked, what is the deal with this gigantic snake tail? So Metzen didn't really... He kind of joked around about it and said he didn't know what it was. What we found out in interviews when it was further asked about was that this was actually supposed to be part of cut content that just never made it into the expansion. There was plans for this. There was plans for a lot of things. Remember what I mentioned about how they had entire plans for Ajol Narub as we were going through? They had all these ideas that they wanted to do and all this other stuff they wanted to do with Ajol Narub, and it just never happened. It was content that just either never got made or was cut from the expansion to be able to get it to launch. This is an example of other stuff that they wanted to do even more so with the Drakari. They wanted to do more things with the Drakari and the Drakari Empire, and this Snake Tail is an example of that, and it just never continued. It never happened. So, yes, that is the famous, or rather infamous Snake Tail that Jesse Cox asked about at BlizzCon. Just thought I'd point that out because I'm sure many of you have seen that very funny clip from long ago when, well, I'm going to be nice to Jesse and not necessarily say when he was not a youngster anymore, but, I think we can all agree that we were all younger, some of those years ago. So, This is a Drakari Colossus. The trolls' use of mojo in their voodoo magic has long been established, but the fusion of those magics into a golem was a revolutionary breakthrough. Their initial success led to the creation of numerous sentinels, all spawned from their original creation, the Colossus. So I don't know if this is going to progress the way it normally does. So the way this boss usually progresses, and I kind of wish I had, like I was actually contemplating leveling a character to around 36 or 37 and bringing them here, just so I could be able to show you guys some of the fights in their entirety. I just don't have a character in the appropriate range when it comes to the scaling aspect of that. The closest I have is a druid at around 31, and I'd have to level her to, for a few more levels today if I wanted to. I just didn't really feel like doing that. But basically, and I've done this fight, obviously numerous times in time walking, is that when he gets to around health, he will split into these elementals, or this other elemental, and then he'll go back to the Colossus. So yeah, when it reaches 50% remaining health, it will the elemental will emerge, rendering the Colossus inactive. But then, when it goes back to 50%, it'll merge back into the Colossus. It keeps going back and forth between the elemental and the Colossus. So, all right, so here we go. So yeah, the Colossus went down. Now it's the elemental. So the Colossus has Mighty Blow, Mortal Strikes, and the elemental has Mojo Volley and Surge, which drenches players in Mojo. And Drenched in Mojo, take nature damage and additional nature damage every 3 seconds for 45 seconds. So then it merges back into the Colossus. Yeah. So I got to show off that fight a tad bit. So that puts that into place. And now we just need one more to get to the end. Gosh, I love the troll music. I'm going to turn it up a bit. Now, we're actually going to do something players never do. So, here's the usual thing. In time walking, everyone jumps off this edge and swims over just so they can get to the next area where the next boss is. However, there's another boss in here nobody ever does. And I'm going to go ahead and show him off to you guys. Because no one ever does this boss. Now, of course, a lot of people don't want to bother with extra bosses because, hey, we got stuff to do. I can't do extra bosses for extra loot or XP or whatever. I have things to do. I need to finish the dungeon and then get going to the next one. I say it jokingly, but that's often the case when or how it often feels when it comes to these things. But yeah, you'd basically be going through here, and the thing is also, I should also point out about these pools. All this water down here. This also showcases just how much of the mojo that the trolls and the Drakari are using here. This is a lot of mojo-infested water here. Just as a representation. Now, of course, the other reason why they jump over here is because they're trying to just quickly get to this boss over here, which has this arena over here. We've got a medicine man, a god hunter, and a lancer. And we've got some other guys here fighting in this arena. And you're probably going, hey, wait a minute. What's with that path over there? Well, let's see if I can actually spot it over here. Because I'm actually, believe it or not, it's been so long since I've actually gotten to do this secret boss. I'm actually, for a moment, trying to remember how to actually reach this boss. And I'm wondering if I actually walked right past it. No. Hold on, hold on. Huh. this way. Again, I'm really trying to remember, unless it's actually in the water. And it probably is. Hold on a second. Hold on. It's down here, actually. No, it's not. Forgive me. It's been a while. I actually forgot to look up how to actually access this boss. I don't think it's up here, but I'll check anyway. But it gives me an opportunity to show you guys more of the dungeon that nobody ever sees, because everyone always rushes through these, and, well, yeah, you get the idea. It's another exit out of the dungeon if we want it to be. Very similar to the entrance that we had before. Now, I guess what I have to do is go back over here, because it's probably under the water. Ah!
It's too far away.
Now, hold on. I'm a warlock. I can go ahead and do unending breath. There we go. Alright, I actually may have to remind myself how to actually reach this boss. Because, again, it's been so long, nobody ever wants to do this secret boss. That I'm just like, oh gosh, how do I reach him? Hold on, just a second. I'm gonna try to remind myself how to actually reach this boss. Or do I have to actually do the other boss in order to reach? Oh, wait. I think so. Alright, hold on. So I think the way to actually reach this boss is to defeat the boss in front of us. So I didn't know that we actually had to do that, but apparently we do, because apparently the entrance is actually right here, and you can actually see it on the map. But I was like, wait a minute, this is closed off. Apparently that's going to open up once we take on our next boss, Murabi. The Drakari sought to sacrifice Mamtoth for his powers, but instead the Loa destroyed himself. Despite this act, Murabi would not be denied his godlike powers. The High Prophet drank of the Loa's blood and will now stop at nothing to keep Gundrak firmly in troll hands. So this is actually one of my favorite bosses. This actually might be my favorite boss in this dungeon, just because of one thing he says during the fight.
We fought back the Scourge. What chance you thinking you got? Get ready for something much bigger.
That's the line. So, fun fact, every time you interrupt that, the next time you cast it, it's much faster. So, it's almost... It's possible, but it's extremely unlikely that you won't be able to actually prevent him from transforming before you kill him. Because, like I said, like, it will fill up so fast. But I love that line. Get ready for something much bigger! I love that. I love how he says that. So he becomes a big mammoth for the fight. The Avatar of Mamtoth. So the bridge is in place, but hold on a second. This opened up. I wonder what be down here, man. Ruins dwellers. The Shrine of Ek. So yeah, these are very pleasant looking little fellas, aren't they? And so we have Ek the Ferocious. The Drakari sealed their failed Gorlock experiments away after numerous attempts to weaponize them. As the Frost Trolls battled the Scourge invading their beloved homeland, Ek and his minions awaited the moment their freedom was at hand. So like I said, no one ever comes down here to face this boss. Ever. So, he has a bite, which does physical damage. He has spit, which does toxic bile to players in a cone in front of him, inflicting damage and draining their mana every second for 3 seconds. He leaps at a distant player, and after 90 seconds, he will berserk, increasing his attack speed by 150% and all damage that he deals by 500%. So basically, you had to kill this guy in 90 seconds, or he was going to kill you. And that's probably why a lot of people never, ever, ever do this boss. In fact, I'm rather curious, if we wait long enough and the rage kicks in, if at a level 70 character, if he can actually somehow do anything to me. I don't see a timer on his enrage, or his berserk, so I'm rather curious about it. But you can see he's doing the spit. Yeah. He grows increasingly crazed. That's probably the sign that he's about to go berserk. It hasn't hit yet. There it is! All damage decreased by 500%. So yeah, and this lasts for 5 minutes. So at this point, yeah, you're basically... like, back in the day, I'm sure there was hardly anything you could actually do to deal with this, with how fast he's hitting and how hard he's hitting. But no, he can't actually do anything to me. So yeah, it's pretty clear why a lot of people just never want to even bother with this boss. I got me sword right here. So as usual, when we get to the third one here and we open the bridge, what do players do? We jump off into the water.
I don't have a target.
Gosh, look at all these bones. And again, these are not just enemy bones. Just think about that for a bit. Yeah, those rhinos are, let's just say they can be a certain nuisance to deal with. So you can see the statues representing each of those different Loa that were sacrificed, and we just kind of fought off as as well. But there's one more, which you can see by the riders and the amount of rhinos that are here.
I'm out of range.
I like that how even though I insta-kill them, they still knock me back. That is funny. So, this is Gundrak. The Drakari turned to their Loa as the Scourge invaded the nation of Gundrak. The Frost Trolls did not come to the Loa with implorations. They came with blades. As blood flowed from their murdered god Akali, the High Prophet Galdara and his betrayers claimed the Loa's strength as their own. So yeah, this guy is a High Prophet, which he's not the actual leader of the Drakari. We'll actually see him in Pandaria, but he's a high prophet, which ranking wise makes him one of the highest, if not the highest ranking member, because of how much they covet like their religious positions. So the high prophet is usually just as important, if not as important, to amongst their people as any of the actual war leaders are. So this guy's a big deal. Now again, we saw Akali outside. We obviously know what happens to him. That they kill him and they try to take his power. So yeah. So like with the other bosses we've been encountering in here, this guy will also become the avatar of Akali to use that power against us.
I'm gonna spill your guts, man. Gut them! Impale them!
So yeah, he'll summon those to be able to do that against us. And as you can see, he's going to be turning into his rhino form pretty soon. So yeah, he's got Puncture. He'll throw his spear into a player. He's got Stampede, which does that. Scarface reference, haha.
Wanna see power?
And Whirling Slash.
I'm gonna show you power!
And yeah, now he becomes the avatar of Akali, where he now has Stomp, Impaling Charge, and Enrage, which increases attack speed by 100% for 8 seconds. Now notice he'll actually keep going back and forth between Rhino form and Troll form. But yeah, you would think over time, with all the failed attempts they've done this, that at some point these troll tribes would go, you know what, maybe we should stop murdering our Loa and taking their power for ourselves. Because it clearly doesn't end well. Because there are these adventurers and heroes that show up that just, regardless of the power we get from this, are always able to take us down. This happened in Amani. Or Zulaman, excuse me. This happens here. This happens to the Zandalari in BFA.
Say hello to my power friend. My power can fall.
Relax. See ya later.
You done it? There be no more? Here you go, man. Take this kid for bringing justice to the frozen wastes.
Okie dokie. Later.
You find the golem? I'm sure it's in there somewhere.
Be see.
Oh, amazing! Oh, this be like nothing I've ever seen here before. Good work, man.
See ya later.
You find your Kari history tablets, man? Yep, I found a lot.
Be see.
All we trolls be subject to the splitting of the empires for longer than some races be existing. We always regrow from the ruins. Yeah, how's that work out for you guys in the future?
Okie dokie.
See, the Dark Spear wisened up and we're like, yeah, no. It's time to move on and focus on other things going on in the future, such as the Horde. And even the Zandalari realized this. So let's just say, if any of these other troll tribes want to survive, my recommendation is to follow the example of the Darkspear and the Zandalari and join the Horde. And work together, man. Because this be the only way we be surviving together from now on. Not by reunifying and ruling the world as a unified troll empire, but as a family in the Horde. Just saying, man. You can see why I wanted to do this as a troll. And so that officially wraps up the zone of Gundrak. So, now, with Gundrak done, we then head a bit more north. Because something is going on in the Storm Peaks, and we will have to investigate over there in a couple of halls. Stay tuned.